How do you feel when you're hungry? Do you feel sluggish, dizzy, or a little weak? That weakness comes from a lack of food you need for energy. But what does food have to do with energy? Food burns. Remember the amount of energy we saw released from a donut when it reacted with oxygen? But how do living things get the energy they need from food without starting a fire? Living things, including humans, release the chemical energy stored in food when they break down those food molecules during a process called cellular respiration. During cellular respiration, food, or glucose, is reacted with oxygen, producing carbon dioxide and water molecules. In reality, cells break down food molecules a little at a time rather than all at once like this equation implies, getting a little bit of chemical energy at key steps rather than all at once, like in the donut example. During this video, we will look at the 3 steps of this process. The first step of cellular respiration is glycolysis. As you previously learned, glucose and other food molecules are absorbed by the digestive system and are transported to cells all around the body. Glucose crosses the cell membrane of these cells and enters the cytoplasm, the fluid that fills the cell. During glycolysis, the first step of cellular respiration, glucose, which includes 6 carbon atoms, is broken apart into 2 molecules that each contain 3 carbon atoms. This process occurs in the cytoplasm of the cell and releases a little bit of chemical energy that the cell can store for later. The second step of cellular respiration is the Krebs cycle. During the Krebs cycle, the 3 carbon molecules made during glycolysis are transported into an organelle in the cell called the mitochondrion. Notice that the mitochondrion is not to scale in this picture. In reality, it's much, much smaller than the whole size of the cell. Inside the mitochondrion, the 3 carbon molecules go through a series of chemical reactions that release a small amount of chemical energy. The carbon and oxygen from the 2 3 carbon molecules are used to build 6 carbon dioxide molecules. Because carbon dioxide is not very useful to the cell, it is carried by the circulatory system back to the lungs where it is exhaled. The last step of cellular respiration is the electron transport chain. You may have been wondering what happened to all of the hydrogen atoms present in the original glucose molecules. They were transported by special carrier molecules to the membrane of the mitochondrion so they can be used in the electron transport chain. Charged hydrogen atoms are now moved across the membrane of the mitochondrion, releasing a lot of energy that the cells can store for later use. Finally, oxygen molecules, which have been transported to the cell by the circulatory system, bond with the hydrogens to form water molecules. Excess water will leave the cell and be transported by the circulatory system to the excretory system, where it will be expelled from the body as urine. Together, glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain release about 36% of the energy stored in glucose. That might not seem like much, but it means the cell is actually better at using food than a car's engine is at burning gasoline. We eat more than just glucose, of course, but that's no problem for the cell. Complex carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars such as glucose. Lipids and proteins can be broken down into smaller molecules that enter steps of the Krebs cycle or glycolysis. Just as the fuel in a car, the rest of the energy of food is given off as heat. This extra heat is one of the reasons why your body feels warmer after exercise and why your body temperature stays the same day and night.